You are listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg, and today I'm joined by my co-host Rahul. Let's go! Hello everyone and welcome to Ace Comicals episode number 64. Today it is just the two of us. That's me and Ray.
Hey Greg, how you doing today?
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Yeah, I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm alright. I was doing great up until just then.
I really shouldn't sing. Not on something that's going to be consumed by the public anyway.
You got the voice of an angel, Greg. Don't ever stop.
The voice of an eldritch demon. We'll come on to that in a minute. So, Ray, how have you been? What have you been up to? Let's do the usual thing we do where we talk about things that aren't comics for 20 minutes before talking about comics.
I've been great. What have I been up to? Since the last time we recorded, the thing that we talked about that I've actually caught up on is Chernobyl, and we've been talking about that off the cast quite a lot, saying how, like, I've only seen episodes 1 and 2 so far, but I'm already, like, super into it. It's terrifying and, like, heavy, and it's, like, the way I described it to you was, like, it's the best version of, like, real-world Lovecraftian horror that isn't Lovecraftian, because, like, they've created, there's this demon of their own creation that you can't even look at face on, lest you be damned to madness and death, and, like, it's incredible. A really good show and like a really good recommendation from Leon. Yeah,
I'm 3 episodes in.
Okay.
And it like in typical Lovecraftian horror fashion, it literally just carries on down further into the catacombs, as it were. If we're describing it that way, it goes to some places. That's all I'm going to say. And the end of episode 3 is particularly powerful. Like, that was, like, the way that episode ended, that I had to sit there and stare at a black screen for a bit afterwards. I was like, wow. Yeah.
God. I mean, we all know the consequences of the tragedy from, because what was it, 80? It was April 86.
Yes.
And yeah, it's one of those harrowing things you've always just known about your entire life. So, like, there's no surprises in what happens, really, but, like, seeing it depicted and seeing how, like, the human cost and the human sacrifice and the human consequences is, yeah, it's harrowing.
It is harrowing, and it's, I think it's good that the story's being told. I like that the story's being told. I mean, I like that these things are finally getting to be out there in the open, and we're learning about this stuff. We're learning about these events, and we're getting some kind of, like, we're getting to hear these stories, which is good. I guess is the best way I can put it.
And beyond just, like, being able to hear the story of what happened in Chernobyl itself, like, I feel like it's prescient in that it's sort of, there's a mirror to be held up to what we're going through now in not blindly trusting superiors and, like, the lies that you're being fed from the government to cover their own back, or the things that the structures will say to make you do things for their benefit at the cost of your own. Like, there's a lot of this which sort of tracks forward still to today. So, I think it's a very timely story to tell.
But also, I think that the scariest thing about it for me is the fact that there's no defense against it.
I mean, like, that's where the Eldritch thing comes in. Like, there's no escape. There's no protection. Like, they can't do anything. You just have to keep throwing people into the fire. Like, it's just never ending.
You can't. There is no way to. You can't wrap yourself up and lock yourself in a safe box away from radiation, because there's no such thing. I mean, even lead has its limitations.
Yeah.
It's especially when you're talking about that much radiation. Like it's like having a dying star on Earth, isn't it? Is that am I right in thinking that you're the one who's more physics minded than me?
I mean, in terms of like just the raw power and the raw consequence of being next to it, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like, I mean, radiation is a thing in and of itself. Like, it's terrifying to think about.
Yeah,
and like you're saying, that it's like that. Again, it's almost alien because it's almost like it didn't. This thing never existed before this moment. Like obviously we knew what would go wrong what would happen if things went wrong, but to this scale and like to actually have to deal with it.
Yeah, I think part of the point is we didn't know what would happen if things went wrong.
Well, yeah,
yeah, we didn't.
Like he even says that line at some point in one of the early episodes where he's like, "This has never happened on the this history of the planet before."
Yeah, we're dealing with something that has never happened on this planet before. Yeah,
it's wild.
It's the fact that, like, I mean, you can, throughout all your charts and all your reports and all your your best estimations and your you cannot plan for something that catastrophic, or you can plan for something that catastrophic, but you're still gonna lose lives and you're still gonna, it's and it just makes me think, why do we even bother with nuclear power at all? But there we go, so. But
yeah, that's a whole other conversation, and the consequences of like fossil fuels instead, and whatever, and like, it's just hearsay and conjecture. But I gather that nowadays, like nuclear power is quite a safe option if it's done correctly, if all the standards are met and whatever. But like, I'm no expert, so
is there not a way to do this off-world yet and pipe the energy back?
Like energy bridges from the moon. That's what we need, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Let's go find somewhere uninhabited and unterraformed, right? Build our power plants and dangerous shit there. Okay, and then just like ship the energy back in massive batteries on like how they ship gas around in huge tankers, like across the sea, like natural gas tankers, and you get these natural gas ships that are basically just floating. Like they have this kind of like pea pod structure, because you know how pea pods have like the bumps.
Yeah,
they have that, but they're full of natural gas.
Okay,
like, and they just kind of like travel around the oceans, like shipping natural gas from A to B. Why can't we like create the energy on another planet, fill up a battery, and then like fly it back on a shuttle, and then plug that battery in?
So it's not enough to want to fuck the Earth. Now you want to fuck the moon as well. Is that what
well, no. I'm saving the Earth by fucking something that's unterraformed and out there that no one cares about and nothing lives on.
You don't know that nothing lives on Mars. Don't say that.
I never said Mars. I never said the moon either. I just said something that's just like some dead rock in you could do it on an asteroid if you want.
But see, this is what happens when you start thinking about these things, and like you spiral down this hole, and then you need a palate cleanser to like wipe your mind of like going down this slide of depression about the state of the world. So like, what have you been cleansing your palate with after something like Chernobyl?
Garfield comics.
and by Garfield comics, what do you mean?
I mean a special kind of Garfield comic that is born of I don't even know where this came from. I stumbled across a subreddit one day called I'm Sorry John. Is that right?
Yes.
I got it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not much of a Reddit person, but I've ended up signing up to Reddit just because of that sub. I literally only follow that sub, and it's
what is it? Yeah.
It's Garfield comics, but Garfield is an eldritch god.
But just to clarify, like when I asked what your palate cleanser was, and the whole point of this Garfield like eldritch horror god is that it's not a palate cleanser. It's basically the same thing as Chernobyl. It's basically like a horrific version of something that's meant to be benign and I guess cute, but like you can read a lot into. People have read a lot into the Garfield comics anyway. Like, there's always been those, like, dour readings of, say, John being caught in the grips of depression, and Odie and Garfield don't actually exist. And so, like, I think there's something There's been a website for a long time where they've taken Garfield out of Garfield and it's just John talking to himself, which is hilarious. Like, I used to love that back in the day because it's just so sad, really.
Yeah.
But this takes it a step further where they make Garfield into like an eldritch horror demon where he's manipulating John, or he's like chasing John for whatever eldritch gods want. And it's
lasagna.
Lasagna, I guess. Yeah. But like the first time I remember seeing it was in like GIF form, and it was like a Game Boy game, like that monochrome palette.
Oh yeah, I can
and it was
smell you, John.
Yeah. So what have you been after you found this? What have you been doing with it? Why have you signed up to Reddit?
I've been trying to make Garfield comics.
This is how they get you, man. You're falling in. Like the real eldritch god is Reddit. and it's got its hooks in you.
So I've been like, because I like drawing stuff like this anyway. So I've been doing my own versions of like, and playing with the idea of Garfield as an eldritch god. And like, there's one I've done where it's like Garfield is in the TV, like manifesting himself through the static in the TV. And it's like a 3-panel comic, and it's from You Are John in this comic. So it's like your perspective, like you're sitting in the chair looking at the TV from the other side of the room, and then the TV tells you to get up and come closer. So you walk over to the TV, and then obviously, you know, like Garfield controls everything. Garfield is in the room. It's called I Grind the Organ John.
And you didn't tell me the title. That's great.
Yeah. That's what I called it. You'd be able to find it on Reddit. I think I gave you the right title for it.
Yeah,
I think that's what
I've had the privilege of seeing the process for this comic, and like
Yeah.
I do like this it's sort of like Samara from The Ring coming out of the TV. It's really creepy. You're really good.
The final the final panel is just a close up of the TV. But it's like the second panel where it's like John's hands, and like intentionally drawn with 3 fingers because John only has 3 fingers. It's like goo dripping from the ceiling as the world around you melts, and you realise that you're actually just a figment of this eldritch god's fantasies and like desires. Like you exist purely for their pleasure. You exist to provide them with worship and lasagna. I grind the organ, John, you just make the lasagna.
Yeah, I like how we've all been having fun going back and forth with like how far we can take this, because like I'm trying to think of what other things lasagna can mean in this context. Like it's a representation for something else, but like we'll have to make those comics. I guess we're not going to show you how the sausage gets made on this cast. You'll have to follow us on Reddit, and you'll find it.
There was something else I was messing around with. I'm called Pete's Hat Guy on Reddit, by the way. There was something else I was messing around with, which was basically the idea that John is one of many Johns, and John and Garfield being this deity, this like elder god beyond God, this cosmic cosmic being will pluck souls from some kind of afterlife, some kind of like bank of souls, and it could be any soul, and he will just pluck that soul, and they will be John. That soul
they
is
will become John.
Yeah, and then Garfield will, you know, torment John until he is done with John, and then if John displeases him, he will kill John, and then a new John will be taken. So if the lasagna is bad, John dies.
Yeah, but, so like I am become John, creator of lasagna.
Yes.
Cool concept. I want to see you follow it through.
Kind of like Galactus and the Silver Surfer. You know, Galactus and his heralds. Like, you could just make a... Oh, that's another great one, isn't it? Like, what if lasagna was planets and Garfield was Galactus?
Sorry, I was taking a sip of tea while you said that. I spat it out. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been what I've been doing.
So that's your palate cleanser, Craig.
Yeah. There's also this really cool Switch game that I got turned on to last week. Bloodstained.
Oh, is that out already?
it's not out yet, like, because you've got Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is like on its way, that I got told about because people have been like people have been hyped for this, and our friend Gary is like super hyped for this, and he knows I like Castlevania games, so he's like, Greg, check this out, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I think it'll be out by the time this podcast comes out. I think it's out on the 18th of June.
Yeah, it's the 18th or 19th, I think.
Yeah,
and it's basically like it's a love letter to Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
It looks like a really somehow more gory version of Castlevania. I think like the gore levels are really off the charts in this.
And there's a prequel to this that's been released on the Switch at the minute, which is like something like £8, and it's like an 8-bit prequel game, which is like a love letter to early Castlevania games, and that is called Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. And that is really cool, and that I've been playing that.
Okay. I gather that Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, like the full version that's going to come out on the 18th and 19th, is it's like done by Koji Igarashi, who I think was part of... I think he was like one of the senior programmers, or at least a writer on Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Yep.
That's your guy. Yeah, so it was kickstarted. And the Kickstarter, and the reason we got Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is because the Kickstarter made so much money that they're like, oh, we'll give you an 8-bit prequel.
That's amazing.
And it's a full game. It's like a full game with like multiple endings and stuff. It's great.
Oh wow. I love when creators are that generous, like they're that giving, and they didn't just keep the money; they put it into more content.
Yeah, they ended up with the Kickstarter generated so much support. I think the story goes they ended up with so much money they didn't know what to do with it. Okay. Like they were just like, how can we So obviously this, and they were going to release the game earlier. As in, this is Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. They were going to release Ritual of the Night earlier, but they didn't get to do that. But basically, they showed some trailers of it, and people complained about the graphics, so they took it back and polished it up, and that's why it's taken till now to get released. Because they're like, okay, you don't like the graphics? Well, I'm not having that. I'm going to, we're going to... Because obviously they had enough money to do that, so they just took it back, polished it up, made it look shinier and nicer, and there is a real difference. I mean, the graphics were great; they were fine before. I don't see what the problem was, but people were saying, "Oh, it looks dated" and whatever else, because people are just bitter internet people. And
it's a stylistic choice, not a consequence of
exactly
not enough work.
Yeah. And then they took it, updated the graphics, and that's the version we're going to get now. And there's going to be some day one DLC as well, which was going to be exclusive to Kickstarter backers, but they asked the Kickstarter backers if it was okay if everyone could have it, and they're like, yeah, sure. So,
oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, they put it to the vote. They were like, so I think it'd be a little unfair to let just you guys have this extra level, and overwhelmingly the answer from the Kickstarter backers was, yeah, let everyone have it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes the gaming community is good.
Yeah, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're dicks.
I will refrain from commenting.
Well, it's true, isn't it? So,
well, yeah. So, speaking of games, so I think I very briefly mentioned that I was playing Sekiro a little while ago. I finally finished that game, and I'm really glad that it's over, because that's a stressful ass game, man. It's great, but it's really not in my wheelhouse. I ended up not doing a lot of the side quest stuff and mainlined it to the end, and I don't know how... I think it's definitely a game that I will prefer to watch somebody high level, somebody experienced, and somebody really good at the game play their way through it, at really high level skill level, and then I'd want to maybe watch a lore description. I'd watch a few hours of somebody picking together all the lore and all the story stuff from Sekiro, the way I've watched with Bloodborne and things. The thing I would say about Sekiro is the combat system is the most accessible for someone like me, because I bounced off of Bloodborne and Dark Souls, but because there's so much rhythm to Sekiro, and it's a lot more dynamic, and it's really satisfying, when you do all the parries and then you stab somebody in the back, and it's really good, and some of the boss battles are really great, and I would highly recommend it if you've got a lot of patience. And the only reason I cracked on with it, I think I would have given up with it a lot earlier, if I didn't have people at work who were also playing it and we were talking about it on a daily basis, like, did you find this thing, or how did you beat this guy, and, you know, all these different techniques and stuff. And, like, for that, the conversation was really good. But if I didn't have it, I would have stopped playing, I think. That's
something I miss about gaming sometimes, because I miss, like, when I used to go into school, like, a new Zelda game would come out, and it was like it's a big thing because, like, you couldn't really afford games back then because you were a kid and you didn't have your own money. As in, like, when I was, like, in 14, 15 years old, and, like, we'd get the new Zelda game. Like, I would have, like, begged, borrowed, stolen, saved up, whatever, to get enough money to have the new Zelda game. Like, Breath of the Wild, I think, was not Breath of the Wild, I'm not that young. Wind Waker, that's the one I was looking for, Wind Waker, yeah. So, that was, like, the one at the time, because the GameCube was big, and that had just been released, and we were like, oh my god, you know, Wind Waker. So I remember having those conversations at school, and, like, having, like, a little kind of, like, rather than, like, going on an online community and, like, somewhere like Reddit, for example, and, like, having, you know, conversations about stuff on there or reading other people's thoughts, you had, like, a group of people. Like, you would get, like, every morning before the first bell, you would be, like, grouped together talking about Breath of the Wild. It's like, oh, I did this bit last night, and it's like, oh, you know, I'm not that far yet, but I've got to this bit and stuff. It's that having that, and that, like, each of you encouraging the other to get further, because someone will say, oh, wait till you get to this bit, and then you'll be like, oh, now I have to get to that bit to see what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's like the circle of encouragement, and I think I miss that because I don't have a circle of encouragement anymore for many games.
Well, I think sometimes it's like the games themselves don't lend themselves to that as much.
Yeah.
I don't think... I don't think that's necessarily true, because I'm going to talk about a game next which has that in spades. And the thing I'm lacking is people who are also playing the same game as me. But, like, I think that's still there. I think the internet may have changed that conversation, or has changed that conversation a lot. I think it's... In some ways, it's too easy to... if you're stuck, and depending on the kind of person you are, you can bash your head against it for a little while, and where you'd normally, like when you're back in school, you had no alternative but to either call that really expensive phone line at the back of the manual or talk to your friends about it. And I feel like it's just easier when you hit that wall to go online, Google, how do I do X, Y, Z, and find the answer immediately, and then you don't actually let yourself have the conversation to begin with.
I have memories of taking my save file to my mate's house and, like, putting, like two brains are better than one kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, working it out with someone else in the room. It's like, okay, I can't do this on my own. Maybe you can help because I know you're better at this type of stuff, so let's go at it together. Or they might know how to do it and they'll guide me through it. So I'll take it around their house and they'll be like, okay, so do this, this, and this. And I'm like, that sounds super obvious. How come I didn't get that, you know?
Well, I love that about certain games. So, like, the one example that I've played in the past that I really enjoyed, which reminds me, this is The Witness, and I've gone on about this game a lot. Like, for all its faults, I really enjoy that game. I like what it's doing. I like the sense of mystery. And I didn't have the community in my friends to have that conversation with, but where I did find it was online. I found, there were people on Reddit and on Twitter and stuff talking about how particular puzzle solutions work. And I think the great thing about a community, and like the game that brings out that kind of community, is that everyone's very respectful of different people having different levels of I get talent's not the right word, but like intuitiveness for solving not just puzzles in general, but like particular sorts of puzzles. Because the whole point of The Witness is there's so many different types of things. Some people, like for example, there's a subset of puzzles which rely on sound, and I found those puzzles really easy. But then when it came to the ones that relied on color, I found them a bit more difficult. And when I talked to people who I've since met who played it as well, and they said, "Oh, I found X puzzle really hard." I was like, "Really? I found that really easy. It came to me really intuitively. But this other thing that you found easy, I found really tough." And like when you go online, people are really careful about like knowing the process and then not giving, like, drip feeding ideas instead of just giving answers outright. And I think that's really cool, and I think you can find that conversation online. So the new game that I'm playing is something called Outer Wilds, which is it's an Epic Games exclusive. I think Leon may have mentioned it in a previous cast, and he's the one who, like, I'd heard the chatter about it. It'd been in development for like a good 6-7 years or something, and I've seen it like grow over the years, but I'd totally forgotten about it, and I was reminded of it. And it's basically, it's kind of like a chill, puzzly mystery adventure where you play like an alien in a rocket ship who like is trying to explore the mysteries of his little solar system. But every 22 minutes, the sun at the center of this solar system explodes. So you only have 20 minutes to go to one destination, explore, find as much as you can before you're brought back to the beginning and have to redo the loop. Yeah. And I'm missing not having somebody to talk to about this game and like, did you find this mystery? Did you find that? Like, I want someone to bounce those ideas off, because it's not the game itself. Like, there's no mechanical stuff to solve really. You are sort of just going around and piecing together information. Everything that you learn everything that is a revelation is born of you. It's not like you have to do a thing in the game to make it happen. So I kind of want that. I want to have that friend to talk to, but at the same time, I wonder how you regulate that conversation. Because if I say, "Oh, did you find X on Y planet?" and they'd be like, "What? I didn't know that was there." Like, and then I've kind of ruined that discovery for them. And like, I don't know if you've had that lately, because that's something I'm worried about if I had that conversation, or if I went. I'm too afraid to even go online to look up anything because I don't want to stumble upon spoilers.
I think as a kid, with like a group of friends, as a 14-year-old kid playing Zelda games or whatever, I think we were less precious about spoilers.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think we were that hung up on knowing what was going to happen next. I think it was more the, have you got to this part yet? Because this is really cool. And you then want to see that. So you will get there to see the cool thing. I mean, having the cool thing described to you and actually having the control pad in your hand and getting to the cool thing and seeing the cool thing were two different things. As far as I'm concerned. So it doesn't, I mean, like I've always been like that anyway, where you can talk to me and you can talk about something and possibly even mildly spoil something, and it won't so much affect my enjoyment of the actual thing itself.
Okay, that is a good place to be. Yeah, because I feel like sometimes if I do that thing where I get stuck on a puzzle and I break the seal too early, and then I feel like I've ruined the rest of the game for myself sometimes. Like, I'll do it because, like, for example, with Sekiro, I did a thing where I just couldn't figure this thing out, and I tried to bash my head against it, but, like, the reward versus the friction that I was experiencing, like, it wasn't adding up, so I thought, I'll just go and find a solution. And then you look up the solution and you act it out in the game, and it's kind of deflating, because it's like, well, I could have figured that out for myself, and I didn't. And I do get that sense of I have lost out on a thing that this game is trying to show me by not doing it the quote-unquote right way. And I know there's arguments either side, but for me personally, I keep falling for that trap where it's like, I don't want to put this much effort in because I'm supposed to be enjoying myself, and then I do the thing, and then I end up not enjoying it as much. And there's no... And that's a me problem. Like, I just need to learn to either give it more time or get over it, because, I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's a fine line to tread, I think, with stuff like that. But I mean, I don't tend to suffer from that problem as much, in the fact that I will give myself so many tries on something, and if I can't do it, I start to feel like I'm making myself miserable by continuing to repeat my own failure. So I just think, why don't I just seek help?
Yeah, shortcut it, which is exactly what I do over and over again. And then, I need to unlearn the thing which feels disappointment and just enjoy the which generally I do. Yeah,
because I still get the moment, because once I've done it and I've done it that way, I'm like, that's really clever, and then I know for next time.
It really depends on the puzzle, though. Like, I've had moments when playing an adventure game where it's like, this is really obtuse, and I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know which parts come together. You look up a guide, and it's like, random element A mixes with random element B, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, how was I ever supposed to get that? And even if I figured it out myself, would I feel proud of that connection, or would I feel like, what the fuck? I wasted my time figuring out this nonsensical puzzle. I got that with like Thimbleweed Park a lot when I played that game. Yeah. And it all depends on the puzzle, I think. Yeah. But that's my palate cleanser. Yep. Like, I would recommend Outer Wilds. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, just to bring this back in a little bit to comics. Last week I went to Leicester Comic Con, and
how was
that was really cool. Yeah, we were there with. So I was there, and the Fluff and Fury were there as well. So that's our friends who run the Fluff and Fury thing, who they make cool stuff with 3D printers and laser cutters and anything else they can get their hands on. They're quite crafty.
Very talented, nerdy
yes.
artisans. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
between the pair of them, like in terms of making the thing and then painting the thing, like one building this like tangible product and then making it look right. Between the two of them, they have that down to like perfection. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're really good at that. And they do some really, really cool stuff, and we've talked about their stuff before. Go and check out their Twitter feed, their Instagram, just Fluff and Fury, and you'll see all of it. Well, anyway, we were there with them on the Saturday. We went, and it was, I mean, despite the weather's best efforts to wash us out, it was pretty good. Because once we got inside, it's all indoors anyway. You don't need to be outside, so it was a nice day.
Where was it?
It was at the Athena in Leicester, so that's it's like an Art Deco building in the middle of town.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Cool.
And they do like events there and stuff. And I think it used to be an Odeon cinema way back in the time.
Yeah, I think so.
When I was a child, back in my day. Well, anyway,
that was and that. Sorry, just on a slight nostalgia note. That Odeon closed down when we were really young, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Like 5 or 6. Yeah.
Well, no, actually, no. It must have been after, because I'd seen films there as a kid. I'm sure I saw Jurassic Park there.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, and I'm sure I saw the Flintstones there as well.
I remember seeing All Dogs Go to Heaven there, which I think was the first movie I ever watched in the cinema. Yeah, and I feel like that film shaped me because it's fucking depressing. Like it's set a standard.
Yeah, well, that's where it was, at the Athena, and they had like video games set up. There was this cool. They had like an original TMNT arcade machine, the 4-player one.
Oh, nice.
And I got a blast on that. It was set to free play. That was amazing. They had a photo opportunity with a Batmobile, like a tumbler Batmobile that someone had built. Like, obviously, it wasn't roadworthy, but it was a tumbler Batmobile that someone had built out of like a prop thing, and a bat signal. So I had a photo with that. I had a photo with a guy I had a photo with Deadpool. Is a guy? Well, was it a guy dressed as Deadpool? I think he was. Was it just a professional Deadpool, or was it the real Deadpool? It's like when you're a kid and you don't know whether it's the real Santa or not.
Who knows? Right? It's so meta.
Yeah. There was they had a bunch of bumblebees parked outside. So like different bumblebees from throughout the ages. I only had a photo with the one that mattered. So yeah, I'm not going to tell you which one matters, because if you're listening to this podcast, you should know which one matters.
Don't be judgy.
So, Generation 1 Bumblebee. My Bumblebee. Anyway, yeah, that's my Bumblebee. Everyone has their own favourites, their own but like for me, Bumblebee is G1 Bumblebee, but I will always have that, despite what Michael Bay does and what other people do. So I'm not gonna crap on anyone else's Bumblebee. That's fine. But yeah, so I had I stood next to the VW Bumblebee, which was really cool. Had a photo with that. And yeah, it was just generally a cool day. It was nice to see, comics on sale and stuff, and people buying comics, and there was some artists about, and the artist who set the style for the Sonic the Hedgehog artwork from Sonic 2 onwards was there.
Okay.
And
cool.
I went to his table and had a little bit of discussion with him about how his original image of Sonic, that was his Sonic artwork for Sonic 2, that was then used as the style setter for the creation of the Sonic 2 box art, which then influenced me as a kid and taught me how to draw Sonic. So that was like, because one of the things I used to do, I used to draw a lot of Sonic, and I used to like, when I was a kid, I like, that was the thing. I used to fill my drawing books with pictures of Sonic. I just loved doing that, and yeah, I was like a massive Sonic fan as a kid. So, and I used to read Sonic the comic, and this guy's artwork had been featured in Sonic the comic as well. So it was nice to meet the originator of this style that was so prominent throughout my childhood. And then I went and spoke to another artist called Gustaffo Vargas, who had some of his artwork on sale, and I bought a couple of comics off him. Now, this guy's art is absolutely gorgeous. He describes these two comics that I bought as Peruvian cyberpunk.
Nice. And
it is literally that, a cyberpunk tale, a biopunk type thing going on, set in Peru, in the streets of Peru. The first book's called Lima, and then there's a book called Trujillo as well, which are both the same, like, it's kind of in the same world, the same kind of setting with this like cyberpunk biopunk thing going on, and it's just like he has this like awesome style that is like full of detail and still at the same time so animated and not too bogged down in its detail. It's not too dissimilar to the reasons that I enjoy looking at James Stokoe's artwork, actually, thinking about it, because of the amount of detail that this guy manages to cram in, and the amount of lines that he uses, like fine lines, thick lines, the amount of animation that he gets into each panel in facial expressions and everything else, along with I mean, I hope I'm doing it justice by describing it this way, but it's gorgeous. Yeah, I mean, you can check his stuff out. You go to if you Google Gustaffo Vargas, you will find his Wix site where you can check out his character design stuff, his artwork, and whatever. And then there's also his Instagram and his Twitter feed. And yeah, it's just, yeah, these two comics were mind-blowing and awesome. And I picked them and I flicked through them. So I'm going to take both of those. And I had a really nice conversation with him as well. He's a really nice guy. So yeah, you should check his stuff out, yeah. They were some great comics that I picked up. And you can see I did like a little mini review of it on Instagram as well. So yeah. Other than that, we went to see the new Godzilla film last week.
Were you excited about that?
I was very excited about that. Do you know why?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Godzilla. And all the reviews had come in. It's called Godzilla King of the Monsters. And all the reviews had come in saying that it was basically like there was reviews. People were doing reviews, and the people were saying they had a problem with the fact that it focused too much on the monsters. Well,
didn't they complain with the last one where it focused too much on the humans? Like, you can't please the audience.
Well, like, it's a monster movie. The movie is the monster. That's the whole reason you go to watch it, to see big monsters kick the shit out of each other. And that's what I wanted, and that's what I got.
Yeah, I've heard that it satisfies really well on that level.
Yeah, and it's great, and it is up there with the all the other classic Godzilla movies that I've enjoyed. And yeah, it's brilliant. It's got all your favourites in there, and it's I mean, the fight card is unreal, but yeah, it's great. I mean, you could actually talk about Godzilla movies in terms of fight cards, couldn't you? Like actual UFC events or something. But yeah, no, it's good. Yeah. It's a good film. I enjoyed it. It was a good monster movie. Great thing to see at the cinema with the sounds and the visuals and everything else. It's a good cinema watch.
Okay.
So I'd recommend that. And that has been my 2 weeks. And I can breathe now. Yeah,
you did a lot in these last 2 weeks.
Yeah. So it's comics time. I mean, I've already talked about comics a little bit, but it's comics time now. So we're going to talk about comics even more. So, didn't you because you're reading Die, aren't you? And didn't you start take a look at the RPG? Because didn't they make an RPG for it, like an actual pen and paper RPG that follows the story of the book?
Yeah, so I noticed a tweet by Kieran Gillen, who's the writer, creator of Die. And yeah, he's written a guide for Die RPG. I don't think it's he says up front that it's not necessarily the same as you'd expect from, say, a Dungeons and Dragons guidebook or handbook. I'm not fully sure how D&D works. I never really properly dived into it myself, but this apparently is more like a set of rules to how to play the game, and then a bunch of handouts which are the characters and arcana from the universe that he's written in the books. And he says it's more of you generate a group of real-world people who then sit down to play a role-playing game before getting dragged into a fantasy world. So you're like role-playing the role-players who then get sucked into the universe of like this fantasy world. It seems really interesting. Like all I was really doing was poring over the like the handouts to see how the characters are arranged and everything. It seems really interesting. So like, if there's anyone out there who likes pen and paper, Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy role playing to begin with, and has an interest in the comic because like all the artwork and stuff is amazing in the comic. If those two things overlap, then definitely check this out because it'll be something that, one, you get to beta test it, and then two, you'll be aware of like how the game will work when it's actually released in its final version.
You sent this my way this morning, and I had a quick flick through it. I got about like as far as character creation, I think.
Right.
And being a D&D player, it's very different from the sound. I mean, like it sounds to me like it's adding an extra layer to the proceedings. So, which it is, and it's also I haven't quite managed to wrap my head around it entirely yet. I maybe need to read it a couple more times, but it's I'm not that seasoned a role player, as in I've not really tried out that many different sets of rules. I know I've played D&D 5th edition, I've played D&D 4th, and I've played some boxed RPGs like the Ghostbusters board game and such, but I'm not really, anything else is a bit foreign to me still. So I mean, I had a quick look through it, and I was looking at the character creation stuff, and the best way I can describe it is you build the ethereal parts of your character, as in the personality, the mind, etc. And then once you have that brain, that gets deposited into a vessel, and the vessel operates independently of the brain. Is that a good way to describe it?
I guess like the way he puts it is you're playing a role-playing game where someone is playing a role-playing game.
Yeah, and so it's like it's meta as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like he uses what he calls a mecha suit metaphor, where you're the person you always were, but you're now just being put into this enormously powerful body. Yeah. And like he describes it as goth Jumanji, like but you're playing the character from Jumanji, having been sucked into the game Jumanji. Like that is it in a nutshell.
That makes more sense when you describe it that way than the way I described it.
I mean, that's how Kieran Gillen described it. That's not my words. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting, and when I get my head around it, I wouldn't mind trying to run a game, actually.
It sounds cool. I always have a problem like committing to this kind of stuff because it takes effort. But like, I like the world so much, and I have a lot of faith and trust in the writing. So
yeah,
like I'd probably, if we could all find time to like sit down and really commit to it, it would be interesting to go through, I think.
Yeah. Some interesting ideas in there and stuff, and it sounds like an interesting set of rules that I'd love to read more into. I'm gonna have to proper flick through that PDF. It's free at the minute, isn't it? You can just download it.
Yes, like it's 130 pages long.
Yeah,
it's just like you said, it's a beta, and he's open to receiving like feedback and stuff.
And there's bits of it missing as well. Like it's not the full game. Like he's omitted certain parts.
Yeah.
Which I think the Arcana's missing.
Yeah, that's not quite finished.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a work in progress, but yeah, like I said, if you have an interest in either of those things, then go check it out.
Yeah, it's worth a look. And on from there, Ray, you want to pick something off your list?
Okay, so we both read... Let's have a look. We both read Test, which is a Christopher Sabella book, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Right. So before we get to that, I want to pick up something else that I read that is also by Christopher Sabella. I read a book called Trustfall. It's a new number 1. And the reason I want to bring it up is because, like, as I always do, I was just brought onto it by the cover, and like flicking through the opening few pages, it's like... So let me give the blurb of it. So Trustfall is described in the book as an exercise in which one person falls backwards without trying to stop themselves, relying on other people to catch them based on nothing more than the fact that they said they would. And it seems the whole story seems to be based around this idea of like trusting in family. Like the idea, the story revolves around a character called Ash, who we're thrown into her circumstances right away in a really disorienting way. I think we see her as a kid on one panel, and then we see her as a grown-up in the next. And like, there's this immediate sort of whiplash between these two different scenes. And like, we're thrown into this action where she puts on a pair of headphones, and we see like a representation of the music she's listening to in a really interesting way, where it's like jumping out of her headphones in really thin bands, like thin, pink, vibrant, aggressive bands. And we see her basically walk into a room, and these two guards try and stop her, and like that's represented really well by like she can't hear them because she's listening to music, and like their dialogue in the speech bubbles is like scratched out, and then she pulls her headphones off and she hears what they have to say, and then she shoots them in the face with her finger guns. And like you have no idea what's going on. It's just like the same pink motion that you're getting out of her headphones is sort of represented in the same way, coming out of her fingertips and like blasting these people off. And then we see like a chase sequence where, like, so these first few pages really drew me in because it's like kinetic, and there's a playfulness and like a lot of really good creativity with how like it plays with the panels. So there's this one panel in like a three or four pages in where we see like an overhead shot of these police cars coming to the scene where she's causing chaos. And we see like an overhead shot of a police car turning a corner between two buildings, and we see like from above we see the roofs of these buildings, but the like the outline of the buildings, the roof itself is actually the borders of the panel surrounding it, and we get to see like snippets of her running away into the street, where in the background we see the police car that's in the middle of the frame turning the corner. Like there's again loads of really interesting representations of this disorientation and just like the chaos that's happening. And I was really drawn in, and then we see like her escaping and coming back home, and then it sort of slows down, and it does this thing that I've said quite often that I find really puts me off, where that disorientation doesn't end, and like it tracks forward up until the end of the issue, where like it ends on a cliffhanger, but I don't really feel like I have much context for the whole thing. And like, again, as I said often before, I'm finding it really hard to like judge this number one on its own. I really want to read this as a trade, and I'm going to wait for this as a trade because I think there's a lot of strength to this first issue, but it's not enough for me.
Right.
And yeah, I mean that's it. Like I wanted to give it a chance, yeah. And I still will. But on its own, I don't think it's doing enough to like drag me along month by month. I mean, like the story's interesting. It's like we learn that Ash is part of a family of freedom fighters, which are basically assassins, I think, who've been working independently, waiting for an opportunity to join an organization called Dead Flag, which is like a worldwide organization of operators acting outside of the state and the government. Yeah. And she's doing this thing where she's defining terms in her narration throughout the book. So like one of them is how she describes what a trust fall is. One of them is defining who the bad guys are. Bad guy definition, those who are in the employ of the government, like, let me see if I can go to that page. Hang on. It's like weapons in a war to destroy the forces of good. They often come in a uniform in the employ of crooked collection known as the city, the state, and the government. And what you realize is that these definitions are like the indoctrination that she's being fed by the family that she's in, this family of freedom fighters. And this first issue sort of centers on that family finally being given the opportunity to join Dead Flag and her first mission for that organization. And I guess the other big thing is that there's a catch to this life that she lives, and that she lives a very sheltered life. She has this indoctrination, but she knows it. Like, she's forbidden from engaging in anything outside of the house. And like, that's all really intriguing, and then it just didn't give me enough. I want to know more, and I want to feel grounded, and I want to feel less lost, but I ended this book still feeling really lost. And like, there's something I didn't say about the art. Like, again, the art really drew me in. Like, that whole thing about using the environmental borders from the rooftops and everything, and that's all really interesting and creative, and there's this quote-unquote, like, half unfinished feeling to it, which I mean in a positive way. Like, in a sense that you can see the seams between the layers. Like, like when you're painting your room and you put masking tape everywhere, and then you peel off the masking tape and you can see like the edge between one layer of paint and the other. Like that's really cool. It does a lot of things like that where you get the feel that it's a crafted page as opposed to just like this perfect rectangle on paper. So like there's so much talent in here, and I'm gonna wait for the first trade to be collected before I properly dive in. Yeah,
that sounds really cool. And do you want to give us a rundown of the creative team again, and then we can move on to test, because I think that'd be a good place to segue into that.
Yes, that's the reason I brought this up first. So this is Trustful issue number 1, titled New Meanings to Old Words, which plays into the whole thing about her saying her definition in the background. So it's written and co-created by Christopher Sabella, art and co-created by Chris Visions, lettering by Hassan Osmane Elhau, and same people on covers and production, etc. And that's an Aftershock comic.
Sweet. That sounds like something that would be worth picking up as a trade, as you say.
I think so, yeah. We'll see. I'll report back when it gets to issue 5 and 6.
Yeah. So we move on to test number 1, which is something we were given a preview of by Vault Comics. This comic actually releases on the 26th of June, so this cast will be available on the 19th. This comic will be available the following week. And test. So I'm just going to read the official blurb from the Vault website. So Aleph Null is a lot of things: an orphan, a human guinea pig undergoing medical tests for cash, a body hacker, a hardcore future junkie, and a corporate asset. But now, Aleph is on the run from their old life in search of a mythical Midwestern town named Laurelwood, where they're test marketing the future with tech that can't possibly exist yet and won't for decades. From Eisner-nominated Chris Sabella and Jen Hickman comes the story of a town out of time, full of mysteries and populated by guinea pigs in need of liberation by the misfit least likely to be their saviour. So, this book, it kind of starts in the midst of the confusion, I guess. The confusion and the chaoticness of this whole idea, this whole concept. So we begin and we open like with this character Aleph making their way to this town in the Midwest, like hitchhiking with a trucker. And it's from there onwards. It just seems like the character, like you can feel that they're under the influence of something, or that whatever is inside them isn't agreeing with them, or something like that. Because you've just got this anxious poetry, like throughout. Like that's what like all the kind of like narration, the narration from Aleph comes across as, and even like with the lettering, actually, because the lettering looks like hastily scrawled notes in a diary of someone documenting their mountain illness with intrusive thoughts and mood swings, and you know, like what effects different medication might have on them and things like that. And it's just it's that kind of story. So this person has escaped from some kind of test center. They have found themselves traveling to this town called Laurelwood, which they have been promised will fix them, whatever that means for this person, because we haven't really been given much around that yet, as far as I can tell. It seems like they need a lot of different substances to survive. Like, I'm not sure if the medication is necessary or for them physically, or just necessary for them in a different way. And it's a great opening. It's a great cold open as a comic, and the fact that it just throws you straight into it, I actually quite liked that. I liked the confusion because it put me in the head of Aleph, and like, you know, to feel the confusion they must be feeling, to not know even what you are anymore, because you've been through that many different clinical trials and that many different modifications that like the way Aleph refers to other people in the book where referring to other people as sapes, like they're Homo sapien and this person is something else, you know? Like, it's, yeah. Like, and they appear to be hunted and on the run from this trial facility because, obviously, through signing so many NDAs and things, through participating in so many drug trials, they actually do not have dominion over their own body anymore, by the sounds of it. Yeah, and this city, this Midwestern city that they're looking for, like, you get the idea that Laurelwood may actually just be a product of mental illness or manifested through a lifetime of clinical trials, a product of their psychosis, but then obviously they do find somewhere that could be Laurelwood or could not be Laurelwood. We don't know, and that's part of the charm of this book, I think. And yeah, part of the charm of this book is the fact that it just seems to be this chaotic maelstrom of which is what, you know, like somebody who has been through so many clinical trials and had so many different mind-altering substances or procedures or whatever done to them might feel, I guess, is what I got from this. And like, I love the thin lines and the washed out almost watercolour of the artwork, and when you combine it with the slightly abstract character design and the notebook style lettering, you get a real sense of the anxiety and the strung out confusion and the fear that might come with no longer having dominion over your own flesh. And the confusion that a cocktail of drugs, you know, would give you to feel like, and the confusion the cocktail of drugs that this person is taking might give you, and to feel like something else, to feel like the next step in human evolution, like you are beyond what these other people are and you don't even really know what you are anymore. The pain, the trauma, the trials and the sickness and what they've put themselves through in order to afford the body modifications that they've done on themselves. And I think they have some kind of weapon inside them, or they've been turned into some kind of weapon, is the impression I get as well. And there's like diagonal lines used in some sequences separating panels that gives the more of the impression of confusion, lumbering, staggering action, clumsy and fast action. You know, the impression of things happening chaotically because it's on a diagonal line and it's just kind of like a slope, and it's just really cool in that sense, in that it is just like a window into chaos and confusion. And I quite like the idea behind it as well, that they have no idea what they are and they're on the run from a government facility looking for somewhere that is going to fix them, whatever fix them means. I'd love to know more about that. And I just want to get deeper into this and find out what exactly this person has had done to them, what exactly they are now, and things like that. That's just what I want to know. I mean, how did you find this, Ray?
I think between reading Trustful and reading Test, I think I've figured out that Christopher Sebela sort of revels in this confusion. And like I think that's his style, especially for these, or maybe at least just for these issue number ones. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like that sense of dislocation and, like you said, not having dominion over your own body seems to be definitely a theme of this book, because it feels like it's the beginnings of cyberpunk. Because like you mentioned, this character is on something, like they're on drugs. I don't think it's specifically drugs. I think we see them go into pharmacies and steal like medical supplies, but that's so they can heal themselves up, patch themselves up, because what they're really addicted to, the quote unquote drug that they're on, is technology. It's like all these medical trials. I think it's the beginnings of like transhumanism. Yeah. So this character has like all these implants, all these augmentations, all these things that they've allowed, submitted themselves to have put in them to be experimented on for the greater good. We're not really given. Like they seem to have made that choice to do it. Like they even say that there's a portion where they say how like why they went for it, but now it's too much, or they feel like they can be greater, and the institution they were trapped in wasn't providing them enough. So that's why they took the help of somebody else who was like another not inmate, another patient, I guess, or another subject. To escape that place, so they could find more. And I think that's what this Laurelwood that they're seeking is. And like you said, you're not quite sure whether it's a real place. They even mentioned that it could, there's multiple places called Laurelwood. It moves, apparently. And like we do get this representation of it as maybe something that's like augmented reality, like they're seeing it on top of an existing town. But again, I think like Trustful, it left me in a place where I was really confused by the end, but not quite as I knew that I was supposed to feel dislocated, like it was trying to bring me into Alepht's headspace, and it does such a good job at that. And like because of all the reasons that you've already said, and like I'm really keen to see what happens in the next one. I want to see what their goal is. I want to see what the world that they're living in is, because like I said, like the beginnings of cyberpunk, so it feels like Aleph and the few other people who have submitted experimentation, like they're like a drop in the ocean. Like the rest of the world hasn't gone to these places yet.
Yeah.
So they're like misrepresented, misunderstood, like left on their own to deal with the consequences of these choices they've submitted themselves to. And it's really interesting to see like how the world views them, and like what they are is almost like so newly alien to the world. And it's a really cool concept.
Like there is a point that made me think. The thing that made me think about like mind altering substances and stuff is a point where they mention their brain pills, and they take a bunch of like pills, and then there's the point where they get injected with something by some type of like drone or something like that.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot going on, and like there's almost so much going on that you don't know what is like what things are connected. Like there's a point where they take like a pin out of the back of their head, and I didn't even. Again, I maybe I just need to read it a second time, but like I couldn't track the events that were happening, like to lead up to certain things sometimes, and I'm giving the comic the benefit of the doubt and assuming that it's a choice as opposed to and I think I'm more into this than I was with Trustful. I think I really want to see. I will follow this month by month to like get the drips and drabs of what this world is and what this person's experienced.
I thought this was really cool, and I'm into it. I'm looking forward to what comes next. I want to see where this goes, and that is test number 1, and that is available on the 26th of June. So NCBD 26th of June. So get down to your comic book shop and check that out. That is on Vault Comics, and credits we have Chris Sabila, Jen Hickman, Harry Saxon. So Chris Sabila is a writer, Jen Hickman is the artist, colorist Harry Saxon, and letterer Hassan Otsman Elhal. So there we go. And on from there, we've got another couple of preview books, haven't we, that we got sent by Vault. So we'll just run through those as well. We will move on to Resonant.
Yeah, because that's the other one that I read.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, of the few that of this selection that Vault Comics centers, I did not think that Resonant would be my favorite based on just the cover. But oh my god, this book is amazing. Like I really fell hard for this book. So what it is a post-apocalyptic sort of like family drama. Like we open on the character called Beck, who is a young girl who, in what looks like an idyllic sort of idyllic world. She's in the middle of a forest. She has she's making her way back to like a cabin in the woods, and everything seems beautiful and lush and verdant. As she gets up from planting this seed in the ground, we see that she's missing half her leg. She's on crutches. She makes her way back into this building where we see her family. We see her father, we see her brother, Ty, and we see her younger brother, Steph, who is bedridden. And the inciting thing that's happening in this story is that we see the father preparing for to leave the children behind, to fend for themselves. Like he's explaining that they've got enough to survive in that place for 6 months on their own if he doesn't make it back, but he will be back. Like he has to go off and find help, because they are, despite the setting seeming quite idyllic, they are on their own and they need help. So he goes off and leaves his children behind. And what happens from there is it escalates to, like, we get to see the state of the world. And like what I like about this is there's basically 2 or 3 major scenes. We see the world as it currently is in its calm state, and then we see what like the danger that's happening, and what it's called in this world is the wave. So they're preparing themselves for another recurrence of the wave. And what like you brought up what was that film? You brought up Bird Box.
Yeah, we were kind of having like a short chat beforehand, and I said that this kind of reminded me of Bird Box a little.
Yeah, because it does that thing where it shows you like 2 or 3 moments which are just outside of our understanding. Like, as he's preparing to leave his children to go fight, he sticks his hand into like a barrel and grabs a bunch of crickets. And like you wonder what the need is for that. And then as we go through the book, we see that like these crickets become like an early warning system for this horrific occurrence of the wave that happens halfway through this book. And well, before I get too deep into it, is there anything you wanted to say on like your introduction?
Yeah, it was an intriguing opening issue, and I feel like this type of horror deserves its own name, its own genre, because there's like you can put horror into different boxes. Like you get like slasher horror movies, you get existential horror, you get post-apocalyptic horror, but these types of stories, they have like this kind of like unseen force, don't they? An unseen force is driving people to harm themselves or harm others. So things like this book, movies like Bird Box, I guess movies like would you put A Quiet Place in that box?
I'd put A Quiet Place in that sort of. Like it's not so much the unseen thing, but it's like the fact that the Earth is sort of still going on. Like I like to call it like reclaimed Earth apocalypse, because like I was saying, like the surroundings are all really lush and verdant and earthy. Like it feels really like a beautiful place to be in. Like we get these opening shots of the woods, like pulled back of the woods, and everything's really like vibrant and nice, and like it doesn't feel like things are. It doesn't feel like things are dangerous in that moment. But then, like the father steps onto what was once, must have been a highway, and we see these cars that have been abandoned and like covered in moss, and that's what I mean about like the reclaimed Earth thing. So for all intents and purposes, the place, the world is, like carrying on. It's not so bad. It's not like the post-nuclear where everything's deprived. Like we've stolen from the Earth, and it'll never be what it once was. It's coming back, but then there is this regular thing that they have to fear. So like you said in Bird Box, where it's that unspoken horror which makes people kill themselves. There's a very similar thing happening in this book in the in the manner of the wave, and then we do get to see that occurrence happen for the first time, and see various people sort of deal with what it is and how it affects them.
And the booby prize of this bunch of films, The Happening. The Happening being the worst one, but like it's got that kind of that kind of feel about it, and it's it is. I mean, we need to give this type of horror a name, this unseen wave type horror. That what would you call it?
I think it's kind of like it's supernatural post-apocalypse, isn't it? It's that kind of thing where normally supernatural is like affecting one person. It's like a ghost or some sort of like demon that is pursuing them individually, but this is like on a global scale. It's something strange that is happening, something unearthly, something supernatural, and it's affected everybody. So like as we see the father set off on his journey, he encounters like the first person that we see outside of his family. He encounters this person who looks like a Ravager, like somebody who is you'd expect from something like Mad Max, where like they're just in it for themselves. They've he looks like that type where he's bedraggled and hurt and like covered in scars and covered in blood and dirt and everything. But like the encounter that he has with him is quite unusual. What you'd expect, kind of post-apocalyptic setting. Like he has a conversation with the, and he's like, "I don't want to hurt you. but like he's like, I haven't seen anyone for so long. Can you just talk to me, please? Like, can you just give me some time? But he still looks like he's after something. He still looks like he's untrustworthy. But he does this thing where he starts crying and he falls to the floor. And he's like, please don't. Just, I'm so alone. And can you just give me? And he says, can you give me a chirper, which is what they call these crickets? And we still don't understand what he needs it for. We don't understand the purpose of these crickets. Like, I just need something, just one, to help me get by. I think I ate my last one. Like, I just need something to survive with. And it turns out they use like early warning systems for this wave that comes and takes over the world.
Which brings me on to the bird box thing, because that's because I thought about, like, the birds are signalling the coming of this thing you're not supposed to look at in bird box.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's there's some subtext there about what this wave actually is, and about overcoming anger and hatred directed at yourself. And when the father sits down and kind of meditates and repeats this mantra, and being able to let go of this anger and beat the urge to self-harm or lash out, which I really liked. That's the thing, because that's the unspoken, and I don't want to really give too much away about what the quote-unquote twist or supernatural element is here. But like you said, it ends, it gives its thesis at the end of the book where it says, our worst impulses unleashed. And I feel like this is a better version of the kind of thing that Bird Box was trying to reach towards. Where, exactly, yeah.
Like Bird Box, there is a monster which makes you kill yourself. Like, there's no choice. Whereas this, it seems like the thing that's happening is putting people into a headspace where it lets their worst impulses be unleashed.
You can,
and like the thing Sorry, go on.
You can submit to it, or you can try to overcome it.
Well, that's the thing. So it has this really great moment where. So like this wave comes along and we get this suddenly shifted style, like, so all of that verdant, lush, earthy forestry imagery that we were having before suddenly changes. Like, the world becomes filled with noise and motion and like a really good visual representation of like stress and danger, like and all anger. The colors in the back and anger, like the colors become fiery, agitated, and less organic and more like structured and like they're streaking pages. And like this depiction of stress is really palpable. Like appropriately enough, it feels like it comes off the page in waves. Like it's so good. And we get this amazing shot where we get two different people who I'm not going to say who they were, but like two people overlaid dealing with the full force of this phenomena. And like one is, as you say, like meditating calmly, like through wisdom and experience on like this cold, muted ground, like centering themselves. And the other is at the mercy of it, like overloaded with their worst impulses and like scratching at themselves and pulling at their hair, and like that juxtaposition of like there is the danger here and it really is there, like there's a genuine danger, but there is a way to overcome it, and it's by centering yourself. And we get that first like it is overcomable, and I really like that note to end it on, and I am super in the rest of it. I'm down for this story. Yeah, I
like this story. I mean, it's the art style in this book. So just talk about the art style a little here. This is the art, because you were kind of edging towards that anyway. The art style here is quite loose. The colours bleed but are still restrained by thicker lines, and everything has this kind of like hypersensitive quality about it. Like when you open your eyes in the morning to sunlight or enter a bright environment after being in a dark room. Like everything's...
Yeah, it's all like nicely saturated.
Yeah, everything is overlapped with a texture as well, a fuzz, which I like, and works with the theme of the story. Like you're on a constant come down from this rage or whatever it is. Like when you're on the come down from a migraine.
And
everything's
really
just like the resonance, shall I say? Like everything's like and
just, when things aren't awful,
like
soft and pleasant,
That's and it works with the story really well, works with the themes that are being explored and everything, and I just really enjoyed this book, and it would be a great one to follow monthly, I think.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
So that is Resonant, and the list of credits for Resonant, it's written by David Andre, inks are by Ale Aragon, Colours by Jason Wordy and letters by Darren Bennett. And it's a great little opener for something that promises to be really cool. And I really like the logo design on the front, actually.
Yeah. Like a shockwave, fuzzing through the O. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. I get the idea that with the chirpers, we might be talking about some kind of vibration or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's really cool.
Like the birds in Bird Box, they're sensitive thing that's happening for seconds before it affects the rest of them.
Yes, so it gives people time to kind of think. On from there, I'm going to move on to the last of our preview issues that we were given by Vault. So this is Sera and the Royal Stars, number 1. Should mention, by the way, Resonant is available on the 17th of July, as will Sera and the Royal Stars. They'll both be available on the same Free Comic Book Day, 7th of July. So get to your comic book store, get your orders in, go to Comixology, get that sorted out.
So you meant New Comic Book Day, not Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, New Comic Book Day, not Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah.
NCBD, not FCBD. There's only one FCBD a year.
Definitely pay for this book.
Yeah,
it's worth it. Yeah.
Exactly, you have to. There's no other way to get it. But the next one is Sera and the Royal Stars. Now, this is a fantasy book, and this is written by John Sue. Art is by Audrey Mock. Colours by Raul Angelo. And letters are by Jim Campbell. Now, this book, for me, I'm just going to read the little blurb off the Vault website again. Civil war rages in the Empire of Parsa, and famine has struck. As the seasons refuse to turn, Princess Sera receives a vision from the deity Mitra, telling her to find the royal stars and restore them to the heavens. Despite her kingdom and her troops' need of her command, Sera embarks on a quest to find the fallen stars now trapped on Earth, save her people from dearth and death. Yeah, it's described here. Author John Sue takes readers on an epic fantasy quest through the Persian landscape, beautifully drawn by Audrey Mock and brought to life through Raul Angelo's colours, with lettering by Jim Campbell. So, I mean, first impressions for me from this, it's a great looking fantasy comic, and I love the inspiration behind this world. It's a fantasy tale bathed in Middle Eastern mythology. Like notes of Zoroastrianism and pre-Islamic religion, and there's some absolutely gorgeous character designs in the book. My favourite of which appears on a full page at the end of the first issue, because we were given a second issue of this to check out as well. The art is beautifully detailed and lends itself well to the landscapes and locales displayed throughout the comic. It's sword and sorcery meets Middle Eastern mythology in an Avatar-like way, and by Avatar I mean Avatar The Last Airbender. The colours used within the pages give everything this like magical quality, and even arid landscapes look inviting in these pages when you read through it. It's just a really, really nice little fantasy story, and it's a nice bit of escapism to add to your list. I liked this for the same reasons that I liked Rose. Now, there's a throwback for you, because there's something we've not mentioned for a long, long time on this podcast. But if you go back a few episodes, a few tens of episodes, you will hear me talk about a comic called Rose, which is another fantasy book, which I liked for rather the same reasons that I enjoy this. It's a great fantasy tale. It provides some decent escapism. There's some really cool characterization in this, and some really nice character designs, as I've already mentioned, and there's some great artwork. Like, everything has this magical quality with bright colours, and such a vibrant world that we're in here when we're looking at these pages. Some awesome full page work, and yeah, there's some great little sequences in the panels as well. There's some really great sort of 3-panel sequences, and there's a collection here in the first issue of 9 panels, a 9-panel page, where a character is visited by the deity Mitra. Sera is taken to an astral realm, I guess, and Mitra places their hand inside Sera's chest, removes Sera's heart, and replaces it with a crystal. And this is like it's a plot point in her finding these royal stars and freeing them. But for me, this is also it's just such a cool 9-panel sequence in the way that it's spread out and the way that time passes through these panels, and it just makes such sense to me and just looks so awesome. I just love those 9 panels. And yeah, that is Sera and the Royal Stars. So it's a beautiful little fantasy tale set amidst pre-Islamic mythology with a bit of sword and sorcery and an Avatar-esque through line, and it's everything you want from a fantasy tale. Did you read this one, Ray? Did you manage to check this one out?
I didn't get a chance to, but it does look really interesting. I like the setting.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a really nice setting. It's different. It's new. It's completely. It's something else. It's something to escape to. It's somewhere else, and that's what I really enjoyed about it. So that's another one to check out, and that is also released on the 17th of July, and that is Sera and the Royal Stars. So, last two.
Yeah, what have we got left?
Well, this is like Greg Mageddon now, because we've got Jughead's Time Police or Silver Surfer Black.
I don't even have notes for Jughead. I read it and I had so much fun. I think we're just going to have to chat about it because it's not one that I have like deep thoughts on.
You read it and you had so much fun reading it. The same as me. I read it last night while I was sat in the bar waiting for my girlfriend to finish work. I went to the bar and there's this bar that sells root beer in Leicester. It's called Ton. So I was like, I'm going to drink root beer and read comics. So I went and bought myself a couple of root beers and I sat there and I read Jughead's Time Police. I also read Event Leviathan #1, which is the new DC thing. And I read Batman and the Outsiders #2. But I read Jughead's Time Police. And it was such great fun. Like this bouncy, fun time travel book with gorgeous, fun, smiley artwork and haphazard events happening, like left, right, and centre, and comedy and food, and it was just
silliness.
Yeah, it was just brilliant in how silly it was, and like this is what I like about Archie comics sometimes. Like, I like that it's somewhere silly to go. I mean, like... Yeah,
this is a palate cleanser, for sure. This is the kind of thing that would be a palate cleanser.
I mean, like, Riverdale, like, the dark and dreary gothic world of Riverdale on Netflix. I mean, I enjoy that side of it. I enjoy that side of the Archie comics. And I like Archie horror comics, because as they, as much as they're horror stories, they're also a bit silly. So, I like that stuff. But, like... This and Sabrina's the same, actually. The new Sabrina comics are very similar in this way, in the fact that it's kind of like fantasy and comedy and just, it's what you want from a comic. It's just pure. This is like pure uncut comic.
This reminds me of the... Yeah, it reminds me of the Archie comics that I read as a kid. You know, the little like back pocket ones.
Yeah.
Where they are just like silly strips. And like sometimes they would go a bit deeper, but they weren't like... I think they weren't reaching for the same things that, say, like the horror Archie ones are, or like the Riverdale TV show is. Like, it's not trying to be... to like reach to that kind of genre. It's just trying to have a bit of fun and like do some nice artwork. And this one is really cool because like it right away sets the tone, because like if you don't know who Jughead is and you just pick this up based on like why ever you would, the first 3 pages really do it. Like page #1, he's mooching off Veronica because he's like putting milkshakes on her tab. Page #2, he's an idiot because like instead of putting butter in his pie, he puts fish oil. And then page #3 is just like the consequences, like the immediate consequences of his cock up, where it smash cuts to people just vomiting at this pie eating contest that he's made this pie for, and like it's just an instigating incident to do some stupid time travel stuff, and like we don't even really get into the meat of it in this issue. Like it basically introduces a reason for him to want to go back in time, which is that he was baking a pie for a pie contest. He messed up the pie, so he wants to go back in time to not mess up the pie. He's like, I wish I had more time. If I had time, I could have got the right ingredients. I could have bought butter instead of margarine. I could have bought proper, like, crystallized sugar instead of dusted sugar.
He doesn't even realise that he put fish oil in it, does he?
That's the thing. Yeah, he doesn't.
He still thinks he put margarine instead of butter, and he's like, "How did you not smell that when it was in the oven?" It's just, how?
I do like we get the like in the immediate aftermath, like he's been told that he's banned for life from the annual pie making contest. Yeah, and that's the thing that really bums him out. Like that's the reason he wants to go to such lengths to correct his past.
Yeah,
and we see like 4 panels of him sort of moving really slowly through time, where it's one panel of him being told that he's banned, and then the same position, like his same art of him with his head down, his eyes closed, looking forlorn, but like playing video games with Archie, and then being in school and not paying attention, and then being in front of his drum set. And like I feel like there's some really nice touches of his misery, like depicted that way, like through these. It's almost like Tom King, like in some way, or like oh god, why can't I think of his collaborator's name from the
Mitch Gerrard's
from the Mr. Miracle books, where like it shows the same thing over and over again, and it gives you like this sense of like foreboding. Like that's kind of done in this book, and I really like that. And so he invents time travel. He invents it. He just
with Dilton's help.
he has the drive for it because he has a reason. This annual pie making contest is so important. He invents time travel. He just does it with hard work and a really brief montage. He invents time travel, and then goes back in time with Archie, and then fucks that up as well. And that's basically it. It's cool.
Yeah,
I dig
it. I loved it. And you liked it for the exact same reasons I liked it, because it's just really fun and cool. So that is Jughead's Time Police, and I will get you a set of credits for that.
While you're doing that, I love how pretty Jughead is. I love everything about him. I love his like this new modern style that they've given him and all the like the recent Archie universe stuff. He's gorgeous. Look at him.
Yeah, he's I love the character designs in this book.
Yeah,
it is like it's spot on, pure uncut comics straight from the source. The story is by Sina Grace, lettering by Jack Morelli, art by Derek Charm, colouring by Matt Herms, and it's just a gorgeous book. It is pure uncut comics, as I keep saying. So that is Jughead's Time Police number 1. And now we move on to the last comic on the list, which was Silver Surfer Black, which was my last one, which was something that I just couldn't not talk about after reading it because it was that awesome. I read it this morning. The internet has been a buzz with word about this book because it's just so gorgeous. Like, it is like seriously the most gorgeous comic. The art is so fluid and it just washes across the page. The surfer is like a bead of mercury, stretching and warping, liquid yet solid, moving through the panels like these like rivers of colour, like a bead of mercury in a sea of paint. And this story takes place after the death of Thanos. The Guardians of the Galaxy and the Silver Surfer were gathered to a reading of his last will and testament, and then they were ambushed and thrown into a black hole. And the first part of the book is the Surfer fighting against the tide, saving his allies, and the second half is the Surfer shipwrecked on unfamiliar shores. There's some amazing sequences in this book that I will not spoil. Some of the pages are truly like true masterpieces of sequential art and really show the strength of this medium, and it's a truly fantastic book. And it wasn't what I thought it would be at all. Like, because I was thinking that this was going to be the lead into how the Silver Surfer got his shiny black coat before going off to fight Thanos in the future. But apparently not. Apparently could still be. I don't know anymore. Because it involves black holes, and black holes usually means time travel and weird stuff. But yeah, it's just such a great thing visually. It's just so gorgeous, and the writing's really good as well. Donny Cates smashes it out of the park again. It's just such a beautiful book. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of the artwork from this yet, Ray.
I haven't at all, actually. This is my first. I didn't even know it existed.
Search it now. Look for it now.
Okay, hang on.
While you're doing that, like, all the original art for this comic sold to one collector. It was like all on sale, and the whole comic sold complete to one collector.
Oh wow!
So everyone wants it. I saw a variant on sale for £15 in Forbidden Planet yesterday. yeah, it's one of those that's going to be like one for the ages, I think.
Okay. Oh, there's a YouTube trailer for it.
Yeah.
Oh wow, the artwork is great.
Yeah,
I like all these like different shades of purple.
Yeah, it's just this gorgeous fluid, like, and the way like the way that the artist plays with page layouts and everything in this is fantastic as well, because we've got like, you know, a lot of breaking of panel borders and a lot of borderless panels and a lot of like passage of time displayed in different ways. Like, I guess this is you get free reign to play with this sort of stuff when you're talking about black holes and things, because black holes warp stuff, like massively warp stuff. And there's some absolutely fantastic, gorgeous sequences in this book, and I'm not going to spoil them because I want people to read this and see this for themselves with their own two eyes. Because we've got time passing vertically, we've got people falling. It's such a gorgeous book, and like even the lettering when we get to hear foreign alien languages and things, and it's just I want to cut out each page and frame it.
That's a mark of quality. I want to do that.
Yeah, it's great.
This does look good. Like, it literally looks really good.
Yeah. So this is Donny Cates and Tradmore. We have colours by Dave Stewart, and lettering is by Clayton Cowles. Donny Cates is the writer, and Tradmore has also helped with the story, but is the artist. And yeah, it's a gorgeous book. So that was Silver Surfer Black. And that brings us to the end of the comics. So we've got a question to answer, actually, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah. So do you want to read this one out? It's from Askew.
Okay.
So, we have a question to answer, and Ray's going to read it out.
Cool. Yeah, so a listener sent us a question saying, if you had to suggest 3 comic books to someone, which 3 would it be? It's not for a new reader. It's not for someone who is a seasoned comic person. They mentioned that they're keeping it vague. I'm not sure what they mean by that, but like they also say don't give any duplicates. They don't want to see more than any one IP in a selection. I don't know if they mean they don't want to see the same IP repeated between us in total. So like we're not allowed to say the same thing.
I think they mean in our selections. So we're not allowed to say 2 Batman stories or 2.
Yeah, I get the feeling that was meant more for you. To like not give like 3 TMNT books or something.
Yeah. Oh, come on, man! I'm not that bad.
we know what you're about. We're friends.
Yeah. So, do you want to go first with your picks then? So, what would you recommend to this person?
Okay. See, so I'm this person generally. Like, people come to me at work and ask me comic books they should read. So I always give the obvious picks. And these aren't my picks. I'm just going to say what my obvious picks are like Lock and Key, Saga, Why the Last Man, Sandman, Watchmen, stuff like that. Like, not necessarily always the best known. Like, I think Lock and Key is like a critical darling, but not everybody knows of it. I bring up stuff like Wicked and Divine as well, or like Die. I've mentioned to people a few times lately. It's like they're popular. Like, if you went into a comic book shop, you would see them straight away, but they're not necessarily always. Like Watchmen is on every single list. Like, if you Google best graphic novel to read, Watchmen will come up. I think sort of in those spaces, that's the kind of stuff I'd recommend. But if I was going to pick comics that describe me as a person, like if I wanted someone to know the kind of things that I personally like based on my suggestions for comics, like I always find that question really difficult because it's like asking me what my favorite movie is. I mean, it's The Matrix, but like if you ask me what my favorite movie is, I would be hard. Like a specific answer. It depends on my mood a lot, but like so it was really hard for me to whittle down to 3, but I picked 3 books, and the way I made this easier for myself was I picked 3 books that I've talked about on the cast before. So number 1 would be Vision, and I'm going to cheat a little here because I'd say volumes 1 and 2 because as an omnibus they come in one book and it's done. It's not like I'm saying 9 volumes; it's 2 volumes. Vision by Tom King, Little Worse Than a Man, Little Better Than a Beast. Amazing books like that have this level of like existential but not horror, just existential life, like him trying to like the Vision trying to figure out what it means to be a man and what it means to be who he is and like have a family that is of his own creation. It has all the kind of depth that I love, and all the kind of misery and like heartbreak just crushing life drama that I love. And moving on from there, as a pick for like me liking puzzle boxes and liking like intertwined like mathy puzzly stories, I'm going to pick Demon by Jason Shiger, which I think I've talked about on the cast. There's like 4 books in total, and it's just the reason I found Jason Shiger was a book called, I think it was called Meanwhile, where it's kind of like a choose your own adventure but done visually. So like you get to see like pipes leading between all these choices. You get to choose between like different colors, different flavors of ice cream, and how that affects the outcome stuff. It's very similar in that sort of like really intricate, mathematically driven, gory, violent, disgusting, over the top, ridiculous comedy mystery. I'd really recommend it. And then lastly, to get my like palate cleanser / slice of life fix, I really struggled to pick between this and Yotsubato, which isn't my pick, but I would really recommend Yotsubato if you wanted something like this. But also Giant Days. Again, one I've talked about in the cast a lot. It's about 3 young women who are studying at university, and just the daily, life and university, and just flatmate drama and boyfriend drama and stuff, and girlfriend drama that they're having. It's just really sweet and light and fluffy, and I love it. So those are my 3 picks.
You see, my picks, it was difficult because I feel like it all depends on what type of stories that person enjoys in the first place. Like, what do they like? Like, I think
that's the reason I said what it represents me, as opposed to trying to give what I think the other person will like. Like, that's the question.
I'd need to have an idea of what they liked. Otherwise, I could just keep listing stuff that I think you might enjoy, and it's like throwing darts haphazardly at a corkboard and watching some of them bounce off and hoping that one of them will stick in, So, I mean, I had Lock and Key on my list like you.
Mm-hmm.
I have Usagi Yojimbo. So, Usagi Yojimbo, because it's like a fun all-ages adventure book, and I think it's the kind of universal thing that anyone could open and enjoy, because it's, it's an all-ages adventure book. It's fun. It's got a little bit of Japanese history in there. It's, it's pretty. It's got all of that in it, and it's a pretty good book. And you can hear me talk about Usagi Yojimbo previous episodes and how much I love it. So, other ones, if you like your horror stories, then I've got Harrow County, which I believe is a great little horror story to start somebody else with. It's 8 volumes, and it's horror / coming of age. And that is, it's a really nice story. It's quite touching actually in places. It's quite endearing, but it's also a horror story. So it kind of straddles the line there between both of those, and it's got some really gorgeous artwork in it as well. Afterlife with Archie, if you like your horror stories, if you like things to be if you like your horror a little bit more trashy, if you like your bad zombie films and things like that, then Afterlife with Archie is for you. It is the Archie world, the Archieverse, the Archie characters, and what I like about the fact that what they do with these Archie horror comics is that the Archie universe, the characters from the Archie comics, like Archie, Betty, Veronica, and whatever, are just archetypes. They're just like straight, flat archetypes that you can fit them into almost any situation. And this works really well with horror, especially when you've got like the stereotypical archetypes for characters in horror films, because they already exist. So Archie's a great fertile ground for horror stories, I think, as in that type of horror story, those trashy slasher movie type horror stories, because it's all there already. It's high school, the people are, you've already got the preppy person, you've already got the rich kid, you've already got the sporty kid, you've already got them all.
The American archetype, the Americana archetype.
Yeah, and that's why that works so well. I had Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerrards on my list. Which I think is, for similar reasons to the why you have Vision on yours, really. Yeah. It's the same thing.
I think, I feel like Vision's a little bit more accessible.
You think?
That's why I picked that one, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that Mr. Miracle might be quite accessible, so I put that on there. Aliens Dead Orbit, which... the
Stocko one that you liked.
Yeah, the Stocko book, yeah. It's my favourite artist, so I would push Stocko onto anyone. Anyone who will listen with eyes... So, yeah.
Listen with eyes. Cool.
Anyone who will listen, who enjoys comics, who likes cool artwork, should read Stoko books, because Stoko's artwork is absolutely fantastic. So I would recommend that to anyone. And yeah, I mean, like that list kind of describes me as well, like my taste in comics, I guess. Because there's this sort of like each note of things that I love the most in comics is hit there. You've got Usagi Yojimbo, which kind of represents my my turtles fix, my anthropomorphic animals with samurai swords fix, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you've got Harrow County, which is like my horror thing. Afterlife with Archie, which is my other horror thing, like the silly side of horror that I like. Mr. Miracle, which is kind of where I go for, but that's kind of where I would go for my more serious stuff, and it also represents the fact that I enjoy DC and Marvel as a whole. Like, I love DCU, Marvel Universe stuff. As, you know, comics, I like classic superhero stories as well, but I haven't put any in here because not a lot of other people do like classic superhero stories. I don't know why. I mean, a lot of people do like classic superhero stories, but I think there's like a line there somewhere where it's like, this is too schlocky for me or something.
It's also, you can find it on film now as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an accessible.
Yeah. And Alien, Marvel is accessible as hell, so is DC.
Yeah.
And Alien's Dead Orbit, because if you like that kind of, if you like your kind of sci-fi stuff, then that's probably a great place to go for that, because it's a good sci-fi book. It's a nice, easy read as well, and the artwork's really cool. So yeah, I mean, that's my list. So I hope that satisfies you, Askew, and answers your question satisfactorily. That
wasn't 3. He's going to have complaints. Like, you know this.
Yeah, well.
But like, I mean, sorry, if you there's a million books to love. So
I'll give you 3. Yeah, there's millions of books. Like, I can't just give you 3. That's why I said, like, I'm taking handfuls of darts and throwing them at a corkboard and hoping some of them stick. You know, so eat that.
I love that. Normally, I'm the one who breaks the rules. I'm like, I'm gonna give you 12. Don't ask me for just 3.
You can't ask me for just 3. You know who you're talking to. I have a hard time just buying, you know, like keeping it to 3 on my pull list. Like,
that's true.
I have a hard time keeping it to 8, let alone 3. Anyway, so we have our pull lists now. So I'll open. So on the 6th, 19th of the 6th, which is when this comic will be available, this podcast will be available. Usagi Yojimbo is relaunched on IDW. So that is Usagi Yojimbo number 1 on IDW, which we've talked about in a previous cast where I've mentioned my excitement and my admiration for Stan Sakai. So yes, you should check that out. And Ray, where are you for 619?
I've actually got one for the previous week, so one that I've missed. So this basically should have been on the last pull list. It's By Night number 12, which came out on June the 12th. That's a Boom Studios book by John Allison, who's also the writer for Giant Days. This is a book where I reviewed the number 1, and like I just lost track of it. I didn't realize that number 12 is the end of this story. It was a 12-issue run. So I want to go back and collect them all and catch up, because now that it's ended. So that's By Night. And then for for the 19th, I picked out X-Men Grand Designs issue number 2, Extinction. And also, similarly to the By Night thing, I didn't realize that Clue, so like in like the American name for Cluedo, where I talked about a previous run, which I really enjoyed, Clue has come back. It's called Clue Candlestick. And on the 19th will be issue number 2. So I'm going to go back and pick out number 1 and 2 on that week.
Nice. So I'll just move on to the 26th then. So what I've got for the 26th of June, I've got Transformers Ghostbusters number 1, which is to surprise nobody. So Ghosts of Cybertron Part 1. After years of civil war, the Autobots fled Cybertron, leaving their home planet in the evil clutches of Megatron and his Decepticons. Years later, and millions of miles away, the Autobots pick up a Cybertronian distress signal from a mysterious planet called Earth. The ghostly signal shouldn't exist, and it will bring Optimus Prime and his team, including brand new Autobot Ectotron, face to face with the Ghostbusters. So Ectotron turns into Ecto-1, in case you didn't already guess. And there's also going to be a toy of Ectotron on sale, which I kind of pre-ordered a little bit. Yeah, I am dead excited for that, and that is my favourite Ghostbusters team of Eric Burnham, Dan Schooning, artist and writer. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that one. Big style. And there's going to be join-up covers, so there's going to be, like, when you collect the whole thing, there's going to, like, all the covers will join together to make one big panoramic battle scene.
Oh, I love when they do that.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. The other one I picked up from 626, the other two, in fact, was Space Riders Vortex of Darkness. Hey, remember Space Riders? Well, it's back. So, Space Riders Vortex of Darkness. Let me get you a little blurb and tell you a bit of what this is about. So we've talked about Space Riders on previous cast, and we loved it, and we loved Alexis Sirrett's artwork because it was absolutely amazing. All these like bright neon spacey colours, and yeah, it's just a little bit gorgeous. It's like everything's under a black light. It's like when you're in a room full of like you're in like a rave and everything's under a black light and you've got like bright neon colours just shining up. That's what his artwork's like, and I love it for that. So, it's been 20 years since the Riders defeated the Destroyer, God of Evil, and saved the galaxy. But when the mother of all evil gods appears and threatens to take control of every dimension and every strain of possible reality, the now cybernetically enhanced X-Riders will come together and travel into her mind to assassinate her soul. It's a suicidal mission into an infinite vortex of blood and death. And that is Carlos Gaffoni and Alexis Sirrett. And I am 100% on board with that. I don't know about you, Ray, but I am 100% on board.
You're excited, so I'm excited.
Yeah. And the last one on our list is Wolverine Exit Wounds. And this is like another Wolverine story. So Wolverine Legends, Chris Claremont and Larry Hama and my mouth's not working. Wolverine Legends, Chris Claremont, Larry Hama and Sam Keith reunite. He goes by many names, Patch, Weapon X, Logan, but most just call him the Wolverine. Join Marvel's greatest storytellers for 3 brand new untold tales of the X-Men's deadliest member. Blood, Broads and Blades. You asked for it, bub. So, more Wolverine, please. Thank you. Yeah, so this is just all about the Wolverine. And it's just Wolverine doing what Wolverine does, I assume. The cover is literally Wolverine doing what Wolverine does to Sabretooth, so yeah, I'm down with that.
Cool.
I like me some Wolverine. Yeah, that rolls up. That wraps up the pull list. So that has been Ace Comic.
Wait! I had a few.
You have more?
Yeah, sorry, I don't think I put them on the list, but I have things for the 26th of June.
Yeah.
So first one, Isola number 8, which is something that you loved and you extolled its virtues. It's back, and Fiona Staples is doing a variant cover for this one, which hasn't even been shown as far as I can find right now, but I want to see what that is. So that's Isola number 8. There's Life is Strange number 6, which is the start of a new arc, which apparently is going to bring back some characters that were beloved from the game. So looking forward to that. A new arc, a new volume of The Weatherman is starting. It's called Volume 2, but it'll be issue number 1 of that volume, which is interesting. You don't normally see that, but so yeah, it's Weatherman number 1. And something new that I've found that I want to pick out. So I'm going to pick one out of this list of things that we've all talked about before, called Gut Ghost by Scout Comics. And the reason I like it is because it looks like the front cover is just this creepy-looking, gross, wrinkled ghost, and he's lifting up like you would lift up your shirt, but instead of lifting up his shirt, he's lifting up it like it's ghostly material or whatever. Like
I saw this earlier. Yeah, like a sheet ghost. He's lifting it up, and he's just a pile of guts underneath. And
it's a pile of guts underneath. Like not even just guts where guts should be, but like just he's made of guts.
Yeah,
made of guts. Ghost made of guts. I'm gonna read a book about a ghost made of guts.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. Yeah, it looks kind of fun.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah. So that is the end of the pull list now, right?
Now it is. Yeah.
Now it's the end. It's not finished. It's finished.
It's finished.
Yeah. So that has been Ace Comicals episode number 64. You can find us on Twitter under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Facebook under Ace Comicals. You can find us on Instagram under Ace Comicals. you can find Ace Comicals under www.acecomicals.com. We are on Apple Podcasts, Castro, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. You can reach us at acecomicals@gmail.com if you want to ask us a question, or just DM us on Twitter and we'll answer your question in a show like we have done in this show with Askew here. You can, if you so wish, if you enjoy what we do, you can donate the price of a coffee at our Ko-fi site, which is kofi.com/acecomicals, and help us keep the lights on. Keeps the website up. So, Ray, where can we find you?
At Twitter on @Monkeh, so that's @MOONKEH.
And you can find me on Twitter @Batto, that's BATTOU, @BATTOU. So yeah, that has been Ace Comicals. That is Ace Comicals episode 64. Ace Comicals, over and out.